Welcome to ArcisFX Live.
Hi everyone, MD. Thanks for the first comment as always. Great to see you. How are you? What are you trading at the moment? What are you looking at? Or are you just sitting on the sidelines waiting to see what the market gives us? And oh my God, I need to shave this. Right. Interesting. Interesting. And let me put the comments on so I can see what people are saying if and when they join us. And if we're lucky, I don't know, I think James is very busy today, but if he is around, let's see if we can get him to pop in and just say hi. He's obviously had a long day of streaming, but it'd be great to hear from him as well. We are doing a joint weekly live stream, me and James, every Wednesday. Hi Lola, great to see you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for tuning in. We have got a weekly live stream, me and James, now for members only on YouTube, but of course any of our private group members will get that after the fact as well. So me and James are essentially hooking up once a week, so to speak, and hopefully he'll get Crash this a bit later if he's around, but I'm sure he's very busy as always. Right, so what has been going on in the markets? Well, firstly, let's just jump straight in, and I want to talk about hype a little bit. Now, we're going to get into Bitcoin quite naturally, but this is a trade I'm looking at getting into more for a educational experience. How can I subscribe to that community? Right, yeah, so there's a link in the description of this group. Great question, Lona, thanks. I'm pretty sure you set me up, so I appreciate it. Thank you for that. There you go, hit it. And there's a link in the description to join our private group. And just an example, obviously you can ask questions in the private group. You can get support. You get all of James's calls and what he's trading, all of his charts, all of his analysis, plus all of my analysis. But, you know, you get lots of little perks as well. So, you know, we have like the Altcoin picks video every week for me, which highlights trading setups. But in the description, you can click the charts and view them, but you can't actually load them up in your own trading view. If you join the private group, you're able to do that. So you don't have to rechart everything. So loads of little perks about joining our private group. In addition, of course, to having James at your disposal and getting first-hand knowledge of what we're all trading and what we're all working on and what setups are around at the moment and how to trade them. So yeah, there's a link in the description. It'd be great to have you. And if you're not quite there, ready for the private group, you can join us as members on YouTube, because now, of course, we are providing some exclusive content. But let's have a look at hype and let us know, people in the comment, if there's anything you want me to have a look at, and I will get to it. How am I? It's been a busy week. Lots of setups to try and make sense of, which we can go through today. I hope everyone is faring okay as well. Thanks so much. But let's have a look. So this is hype. We're going to go through loads of setups today. Now, Hyperliquid, if I'm not mistaken. Now, we have this is quite a volatile asset for us to be clear. So let's just, you know, this is where we are. This is our trading range, right? So this is kind of, you know, the pit stop before kind of strong bullish moves, essentially. And we're just trying to exit that area right now at this point. And if you look at where we are now, this nice little kind of rising channel, which obviously has probabilities of downside. You can also see other little rising channels as well here before a break higher. Now, I have concerns about this particular setup because, of course, and this is what I wanted to discuss today, we can't just have a setup which lines up, which hype is lined up. So this was the criteria. We needed to enter on the break of this downwards channel. That was our first signal. We then, we need to wait for a break. You could trade this, of course, and if you had traded the initial break of the channel, that would be about 5%. But the idea was that we need to have some of these bullish signals stacking up. So we want to wait for a break of this channel. We then want to wait for a break of the 200 MA and then horizontal resistance, which is around 39.59, just under 40, essentially. Now, this is exactly where we are now, and we are retesting that 200 MA at the moment with all of those three signals stacked up. Now, we have a few problems. Now, the first problem is if we switch to Bitcoin, we'll see that Bitcoin is, let me find the right Bitcoin chart. Count how long it takes me to find the right chart. Here we go. Come on. Here we go. Got it. Right. So as you can see, Bitcoin, when I was looking about this trade earlier today and just talking to people in the private group about it, We obviously had a nice run up. We do need to hold 110k. We'll talk about that in a little bit later. But because we're at resistance, Bitcoin is at resistance, 112k. We have a nice little bit of a move. You have to presume we're going to have a bit of a rejection now, and we need it to come back down. We need 10 seconds. Thanks, Lola. We need to be able to check that 110k has now flipped from resistance to support. This is a massive, important level on broader, higher time frames, which we'll look at later today. But because I know Bitcoin probably has to be traced a little bit, when we look at hyperliquid, and you can apply this to any of the other charts we look at today, when we look at hyperliquid, we're like, oh, right, okay, so how much selling pressure from Bitcoin can this moving average, looking for good entry price on Ether, Sol, and looking for a good entry price on BTC, Ether, Sol. Okay, we'll get into that. Thank you for that, MD. We'll try and look at that. And the question is, will this 200 MA hold? Will this horizontal line hold? How long will the bulls stay trying to hold this price action up here following this breakout if Bitcoin is giving us downwards pressure? Now, if Bitcoin does come down, I'm going to lose the chart again. I think I can find it. Here we go. If Bitcoin does just come down to around 110k, which is what we need, then you've got a premise. So essentially, I really want to see what Bitcoin does next. It's making it a little bit awkward for hyperliquid, because obviously the ideal scenario for this entry here for hyperliquid would be if we have Bitcoin having retraced a little bit, approaching some support level as opposed to just below resistance, and then it makes this all a little bit better. Now, we have had a breakout of total 3 ES today, total crypto market cap, excluding Bitcoin, Ethereum, and stable coins, which was a bullish signal we were waiting for. So we've got a nice signal from hyperliquid. We've got one signal from the money flow, but Bitcoin dominance hasn't actually given us the sort of signal we want yet. So it hasn't all stacked up, but they are beginning to stack up. But nonetheless, basic trend dynamics suggest if Bitcoin descends lower than 110k, or does it quickly, that we may lose this level. And therefore, I've added to this chart since yesterday's altcoin picks this lower support area for a potential dip, which is a pullback entry essentially. And if you look at that, it's like a 40% retrace on this move, which makes much more sense. Now, can hyperliquid just go up from here? Can Hyperis go up from here? Yeah, absolutely it can. But we as traders need to have probabilities in our favor. And if we recognize that Bitcoin is king, and Bitcoin will pull the market down regardless of how good the TA is on hype, and we know Bitcoin is at resistance, then that's presenting a bit of a conundrum. And the other side, the problem is also as well, if hyperliquid does come back down here and it comes down quickly, we're obviously going to lose the 200 MA, and that would be resistance again. But you know, we do see this is only the 2-hour 200 MA, so why don't we put some more moving averages on and just do a little bit of planning at the moment to see, because I'm thinking about entering this, and I think it'd be a good learning opportunity to enter this for people in the group. So let's just add a few more moving averages. And this is a really handy way of adding things to your chart, just using the basic moving SMA indicator on TradingView, and then you can select which time frame you want to do. So let's firstly put the daily on. Let's see what the daily 200 MA is doing. I imagine it's up here somewhere. Can we see it? Can we even see it? I can't see it yet. No, can't see that. That's a bit weird. This happens all the time on the live stream. Just the moving averages don't appear when I want them. Let's just double check what I've got. 200 MA, 1 day. Okay, so let's try another time frame just to see if that's working. Let's try the 4-hour. There we go. Okay, so now we've got the 4-hour overhead. Have we got anything underneath which can help us out a little bit? Let's go to the 1 hour. Where's the 1 hour? Oh, okay, this is interesting, right? Now, because in the group, when I was posting this setup earlier today, following altcoin picks, I said that if you're looking for some of these entrances, you need to look for confluence. And this is the sort of thing what I mean, right? You want to look for additional confluence. So I'm looking for a potential small entry here. And then if we get a retrace, I might enter again. We'll talk about that play in a second. But yes, we now have the 1 hour 200 MA also coming in as support. So it's kind of nice, actually. You can come in on the 2 hour 200 MA as your first entry point, and you can scale in on the other one, which hopefully will come in and give a bit of support. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to just keep my eye on Bitcoin. That's the most important thing. And I want to see it start basing out around this area, right? Bearing in mind, this is the 1 day underneath. You know, we haven't properly tapped it following its breakout this time as well. So again, difficult picture with Bitcoin at the moment, but I think I may try, as long as this level holds, and if Bitcoin slows down a bit, seems like it's basing 110k, I'm going to enter a small position here. Just a very small position, maybe 20%, right? 20% here on the presumption that we are going to have a retrace back down to this level. Now this is a local support level as well. We can see here support, resistance, but it's a bit ambiguous. So this is why I want this moving average as well. And then we add diagonal resistance, which means there's going to be some buyers here. We add 200 MA on the 1 hour. We've got some buyers here. And of course, we then have some buyers on this support line, on this previous resistance area, this horizontal trend line. And then if this moving average does fail, if this breakout level does fail, then we've got a 20% position. We look to come in again, and then we've got options, right? It's sort of hedging to a degree, of course. So that's probably what I'm going to do. That's the play I'm looking at. I think it's quite an interesting trade. I think it'd be a good opportunity to just keep my skills fresh. But the most important thing to recognize is that I am identifying that probabilities are not 100% in our favor for a move here. Now, of course, if Hyperliquid had come up a little bit higher like this, and now it was here, I would think differently, because we've had another bullish signal from Hyperliquid. We've had a breakout, plus a strong move upwards on the breakout, but this is a bit meager. It's like popping your head above the parapet. You're pretty much going to put your head back down again, right? So this would be the play. Recognizing probabilities are in your favor, although Bitcoin could make a move from here for sure, right? Okay. And if it does base out 110K, we're going up, but we recognize that we haven't got all of the signals stacking up yet. We recognize that based on basic retrace values, this hasn't come down enough yet. And even though it could go up, because it's not a particularly, it's quite a volatile token, we have to recognize that. We enter then with a smaller position if we feel so inclined. And then we look to enter again with a larger position in this area to try and scoop it up. The Boring Channel, great to see you. Zek, yeah, thank you. I'll look into that. Thanks for being here. Nice of you to join us. Yeah, we'll take a look at Zek. Emily, great to see you. Happy Friday as well. Yeah, Friday get-togethers. Not sure it's great for the algorithm. Not sure it's great for everyone's schedules, but that's the way it is at the moment. So, and maybe we can get James to pop in if he's not busy. We'll see. I think James is a little bit worried sometimes that he doesn't want to crash my party, but the reality is it's his party, and he can crash it anytime. So that's the sort of mentality with Hype, and I think I'm going to enter this trade just principally 20% here, presuming I'm going to get a retrace, and if I don't, I've got a position already which I can add to again. So that's Hype. But let's look at Bitcoin now before we just do some of the charts people have requested. So this is Bitcoin 2-hour chart. In fact, no, let's not start with that. Let's start with the biggest narrative of the day. Count how long it takes me to find a chart. It was 10 seconds last time. See if I can beat it. Where is the long-term time? Where is the long-term? Here it is. Right. So this is Bitcoin daily chart. And if you watch Bitcoin Update this week, then you would have seen me talk about this. If you haven't, please go and check that out. Give it a like and a comment, especially with altcoin picks as well, because that's at the altcoin picks at the moment is at the front line of trying to get the algorithm to branch out to crypto at the moment. So if you could go, and if you haven't watched altcoin picks this week, go and give it a like, give it a comment. Really helps. Thanks. And even share it on your socials would be really helpful to Arcis right now. Okay, so the idea was we've been stuck in the potential bear trap scenario, potential bull trap scenario. The sellers couldn't get the price action to move with any further below the 200 MA. The buyers couldn't get the yeah, I know, Lola. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. But you've done the right thing with Sol. We'll talk about that a little bit later. We also had James. We also had a sorry, Uranus. Okay, I need to concentrate. I'm reading all the comments. They're quite funny. Right. So but let me just put that on screen because it's slightly offensive. That was just in case you're wondering. Uranus is a altcoin setup, which we're looking at, just to be clear, not the planet and not anything else. So Bitcoin had this decision time. Bitcoin couldn't get above 110K, or rather it keeps going above, it tries to get above 110K a few days ago, but it couldn't get a candle body close on the daily. So it was stuck. Is it going to be a bull trap? Is it going to be a bear trap? But now, as you can see, we are moving ahead. Nice to see you, Control or Alpha. Thanks for being here. We are now potentially moving above 110K. And if we can hold it, then the bulls will win this battle, and this was a bear trap, right? So this is what we need to look at. This is why it hasn't been good trading the last few days, because we haven't had a decision from the market. So looking for a candle body close in 10 hours for this daily chart would be something you could look for. If you get a candle body close above 110 in about half a day's time, then that will be another signal stacking up for Bitcoin longs, right? And this is how you need to play it. Now, some of you will trade off 1 or 2 bullish signals from a breakout from total 3 ES, from your altcoins being in good position, and then maybe just looking for something from Bitcoin. But others will need to see more signals, typically me. So that's the idea. Right now, bulls look like they may be able to win this one, but until we get that kind of body close, it's not clear. And then, of course, if we zoom in, if you look at the 12-hour chart, you can see we're also up against diagonal resistance as well. So this is another signal we're waiting for. We need 110k to hold, and we're only 110. We're only 111 or so at the moment, right? So if we have a dip back down, we're going to lose it again. So it's not guaranteed, but if we do get a break above this diagonal resistance, that would increase the probabilities that 110k will flip from resistance to support, which means the bulls have won this bull trap, bear trap kind of 50-50 argument, which has been going between buyers and sellers. So this is something we're still waiting for. And of course, this is a very binary proposition here, of course, but this is 110k, and we just need to see a bounce. And then again, another signal you could be waiting for is a breakout of this symmetrical triangle pattern as well. So depending on your risk tolerance, depending on how many signals you want to see from Bitcoin to stack up, depends on essentially your approach to trading. For me, I need 3 or 4 bullish signals to trade off. Right now we've got about 2, right, and they need to stack up. If 110k can flip and we can have a bounce off it and we can have some green candles above it, then that's great. That's another signal, super duper. But you can see it would just dip back down to the 200 MA would again lose 110k, which would mean the bulls are back fighting again for this area. So it's still not quite there yet. Let's just have a look at some of the comments because I'm neglecting you. I think there'll be a liquidity hunt to the downside first. Yeah, and this is the risk. You see, this is why when I'm talking about the hyperliquid trade, like, we've got to be very careful. The battle between buyers and sellers hasn't been won yet, right? And just because bulls have managed to force the sellers back a little bit and started getting the narrative, all it takes is a little tweet or something, and then we're back down, right? And there is a perfectly organic narrative for Bitcoin to come back down to 107k as well, as we just highlighted with this pattern. As if we come back down to tap the daily 200 MA again, that's 108, as well. So that kind of makes sense. But that's why you need multiple charts to put all of these things together, and then you can pull the trigger once you get the level of signals that you need. And yes, of course, the weekend is starting. You're right. So waiting for this, we're waiting for a breakout of that. We're waiting to see that we have flipped 110k, right? That's important, because if you look at basic TA, again, the 1 day 200 MA seems like a better place to kind of retrace to, but we have had several attempts to hold 110k. I would think by now that the bulls might be able to have a crack at getting some range trading in this area. And again, visualize what you want to see. I want to see something like this. Right, I want to see something like this, right? Just ranging for a little bit, and then a breakout like that. That's what I want to see, but not 100% convinced, to be honest. And that's why caution is required. And if you are thinking of entering some of these setups, you have to recognize that, it's going to be a much smaller position than I would usually trade with, just to offset risk, if at all. So that's the idea. But let's have a quick look at Ethereum, because that was on the card. Let's just do this first. Have a look at Ethereum, because people have been asking. Yeah, so big picture, Ethereum 3-day, we've obviously broken out, and we're retesting this 3650 area, and we're back in this. And you can see really that, we could see Ethereum just hang around this area on the higher time frames for a little bit before a potential move up. So no real rush, I don't think, right now to be jumping in for a position with Ethereum. Although, it is a bit tricky, but what I would suggest is that 3650 remains a good entrance point. So if we do get another dip, right, and we're only there like 2 days last week. We were there last week. So just over a week ago, we're at that level. So until you see a move above 4045, you have to presume that Ethereum is going to be back in this area, and then it's just a case of waiting for it to dip to 3650 or 3700. Depending on your what you're looking for, to get in there. So don't rush too much. Now, of course, if you see Ethereum break up and start ranging this upper range, then obviously 3650 starts to become a little bit in the rear view mirror. But we are in this trading range, so this is the logical place. And ultimately, if Bitcoin does head down from here, then we could put a lot of pressure on Ethereum, and we could have even lower prices, maybe as low as 3,500 down to the crash wick. as well. So don't feel it's going to get away from you, right? If you miss your entrance, you can have another opportunity, and just ask yourself, what range are we in? We're in this range right now, and you obviously want to come in at the bottom of it. So until we move up to another range or a lower range, just wait to get your nice flush entrance. Not necessarily because not just because it's a low price, but because, of course, if you do enter here and Ethereum does head lower, you're going to have options potentially to get out if there's further market downside. Whereas if you enter now in Ethereum, then if the market heads lower from here like this, you may not get your exit and you'll be left holding the baby, so to speak, or the queen, because it's Ethereum. So that's Ethereum, but let's just zoom in just to see if we've got what's going on exactly. Yeah, I mean, so we've had a double bottom, wasn't really confirmed. We've got a lot of resistance overhead. This seems like a nice place to come down to. We've got a bit of compression by the looks of it. 38.50, good support for Ethereum. Let's have a look at that. Yeah, let's have a look. 30, sorry, just my brain, just 38.50. Yeah, I mean, the trend line I've got is closer to 900. 850 for me is probably a little bit no man's land, but maybe there's a different chart perspective. Yeah, I'm not 100%. I mean, yeah, okay, yeah, I can. Yeah, the tip down here represents 850 potentially, but the issue is that when you need to really look at these levels from the you really need to look at the most recent levels to determine the price action. It's all very well. We can look at these areas and say, yeah, that's, but it's not particularly, it might not be as relevant. So again, you try and look at this very simplistically, because as humans, we try and rationalize an entrance at whatever the price is at the moment, right? And the reality is that it's a simple proposition, right? We have two trading ranges. This one up here between 4,800 and 4,000, essentially, roughly. And now we're in a different trading range. We're between 4,000 and 36.50. And where do you want to be? Where do you want to make a long play? You want to be at the bottom of that range, not just for the best price, but because of risk management, as we just talked about. And if you're still convincing yourself to enter in the middle here, then that's just FOMO, right? And sure, it could go up from here if Bitcoin goes up, but we need probabilities in our favor. And look, there's a lot of things compressing the price action right now. So you very easily see it coming back down here. I'm not saying it will, right? You might decide that 3,750 or 30 is a better level with these wicks and some of these candle body closes. Thank you, MD. That's very nice of you to say that. We work hard and we've got lots of big plans. So thank you. That's very kind of you. So it's what you have to look at, where's the ideal place and work back from that. So if we say 36.50 is the ideal place for Ethereum, but you think that things are turning a little bit bullish, which we've argued that there's a few signals stacking up now, then you can say, okay, I'm not going to look at 36.50, but I'm going to look at 37.50, right? Based on the fact that we've only had wicks down to this level for the last two dips, meaning that the next wick might just tap it and then we can have a move up. So you can rationalize it, and that makes sense, okay? But you have to, and if you're looking at it from a point of risk management, coming in at 37.50 still gives you some options, right? Because you can see this is arguably at a sub level in the range, and even if we do get a break lower, this level's still going to has a probability of being tapped. But if you come in now at around 3,900, not so much. So it's all about that balancing act. Look at the ideal place, where do you think the most buyers are, and work back from there. And if you think things are a bit more bullish than they are, then just set your order a little bit higher, but don't go crazy. But I think there might be a triangle forming. Just my eyes are seeing a triangle. Yeah, okay. And that changes things a little bit. So let's look at this. So this is exactly what I was talking about. So you've come up with a new narrative now. So we could say, okay, so my entrance for Ethereum is, because we've got this symmetrical triangle, I'm going to come in at the bottom of this lower trend line, and that would be around 37.50, right? Which is not as bearish, not as low down, excuse me, as 36.50, right? We have tapped it a couple of times, almost. Yeah, there we are, a couple of times. And you can say, I'm going to come in there. And again, if the bearish narrative takes over, the sellers are going to want to retest that, right? And you'll probably actually get out at the higher level. Or if you are bullish, or rather you prefer waiting for bullish signals than front running price action, i.e., so not everyone feels comfortable coming in like that. right? Other people will want to wait for bullish confirmation. So we might want to see something like this. And then they'll enter there when we've had the breakout of the pattern. And we'll talk about this with FET in a bit if we get to it. So, this is a nice little pattern you can potentially trade off, and which is a nice balance between coming in at support and maintaining that principle and not feeling FOMO, whilst, not necessarily obsessing over 3650 if there's a pattern which is suggesting we may not see it if the bullish narrative continues. So draw this pattern on your chart and trade off that, right? And either come in at support or wait for a bullish breakout. But I wouldn't be shorting anything right now. So that's Ethereum. What was the other one? Let me just check the comments. We got ZEC and Sol, was it? Let's have a look at Sol. Have I got a Sol chart open? I do. Right, so let's just clean this up. Sol, same game really. Now, Sol is, this is a lower support range we've been talking about for a month or so now, actually. And you can see the price action is respecting the 200 MA for Sol right now. And that is, that's good. That shows resilience in the face of Bitcoin. But obviously, Bitcoin needs to maintain its, a bullish posture, which it hasn't had. And if that changes, this is going to sell off. So essentially for Solana, if you're wanting to enter Solana, and keep your eye on Bitcoin, then just coming in flush with the 200 MA, which the next dip probably is going to be around exactly on 180, right? So 180, I've been talking about for ages, is still the level to come in with Sol. Not here, not where it is now, right? At around 180, or if you can get 179, that would be even better, right? That's what you need to be looking at. Not because it's the best price necessarily, but because it's the most manageable price. In terms of if we crash down, and obviously this is the daily 200 MA, so we've got lots of support here, and of course the RSI is still pretty cool as well. So that would be the premise: get a little bit of a dip to 180, 179 with confluence with the 200 MA. That's your entrance. Still the same play. We just need Bitcoin, of course, to play along. But this works. Bitcoin's current narrative works with Sol at the moment, so that's a really straightforward entrance. 180, 179, 178. That's the sort of thing I'd look for Sol. It's very manageable. Right, ZEC. Let's have a look at ZEC. Have I got a ZEC chart open? I don't think I have, because it put in some great gains and I got rid of it. So let's load up my ZEC chart and see where we are. In fact, no, let's do a fresh perspective. Should we do a fresh perspective, everybody? Fresh perspective, reset. Reset with ZEC, Zcash, Binance. Hello, ZEC. Nice to see you. One of the interesting gainers. So we start on the daily chart. Okay, so this is interesting. So we've had a dip. Put in a higher high. That's the broad narrative. Now let's zoom in. In fact, no, let me just put some trend lines on. Now you might ask, well, if you've got a ZEC chart, why are you recharting it? Well, my ZEC chart was based on pre this bullish move, right? And I don't want to have my view skewed at all. So let's just put some lines in the sand. I think that's probably a bit difficult on this time frame. Let's go with that. That's better. I like that. That's fine. So we've just got some lines in the sand. Now let's zoom in to the 4 hour. Now, I mean, I preface this with the fact that obviously we've had a tremendous run up, and based on market cycles dynamics, we have a lot of downside ahead. And if we draw on that nice market cycle bell curve, then hello, where are we going, right? But it's not quite as simple as that. This is an asset which has shown tremendous resilience in the face of the market crash, showing there's a lot of interest there, which is a great way to test an asset to see whether it's something worth investing in. Because if it holds up, when the market crashes and everything else is going to the floor, then it obviously highlights how bullish this is. But here's the reality: we can't get caught up in this further. This higher high, that's pretty nice, right, for bullish continuation. And I think we've got a diagonal trend line as well. So let's build up the picture, right? We're not looking for a trade. In terms of, we're not committed to one. We're just trying to see if there is one, right? So, okay, we have a clear definable trend line. If you're super, super bullish, and of course, I think this is definitely the breakout level. We do have candle body closes above here, but this is where I think the most respected level. So, and this is where the sellers are going to be. So let's just make that clear where the sellers are. So we're not getting caught up in any bullish further. Let's just put that on there. Okay, right. So we're all clear. Now, this is where the most buyers will likely be, right? Because this is the bottom of the trading range, as we were just talking about with Ethereum. So let's start from there. Let's work backwards, right? And we don't want to be caught up with thoughts like, but I want to trade now, right? I don't want to wait till next month, right? You can't have that in your mind, right? That doesn't help you. right? There's plenty of things to trade, right? So this is ZEC, and so we've got a play. Obviously, we also have, where are the buyers? We have local support here, right? There's local support here, and this is support if we have a breakdown. Now, is the price action weakening? We got a high. We still have a higher low, but we seem to be stuck below this resistance area at the moment. Now, when was this breakout? This was 21st of October. So it was just a few days ago. So this was after the crash. So that gives us context that, you know, people are still looking to try and get in on ZEC. So your first option to get in on ZEC, and let's use this horizontal ray tool to get in on ZEC, would be find where it's gonna. There's nice confluence there. Okay, so intersecting here, looking about 243. 252, a retest of this trend line, and you would enter there on the presumption that bullish narrative is going to continue. Now that will happen if Bitcoin plays along for sure, but this is giving us signals of a weakening trend, right? Because we're not coming off the back of this higher high, we're potentially coming off the back of this lower high, which is concerning. So this remains the best place to come in with ZEC, which is in around 186. And if we put in the context that we've had this huge run up, this is just the start of October, right? How much does this asset realistically need to come back down to reset? Really, we don't want a 40 to 50% retrace in crypto before making an entrance. So you have a local entrance here for bullish continuation, which may come into play, right? We've got this higher high, so that's okay, right? But we haven't had a change of character yet, I don't think. But this still is the best place to enter for a position, and because this has come up so high, it can come down so high. So imagine what happens if you have another crash here, right? I mean, this will be the first line in the sand. So, you know, if you're desperate to come in, you're desperate to get in on ZEC, then a retest of this diagonal support makes perfect sense with around 251. But it's extremely high risk, and it's quite difficult to manage this as well. Now, you could look for some additional moving averages and see what's coming in to offer you support. So let's have a look. Yeah, that's a bit slow on the run. Let's see if we've got any shorter time frame moving averages. You know, and again, I'm not trying to force a trade, but I'm just trying to highlight, if you can't find a narrative with confluence, then no. Okay, so this is the 1 hour 200 MA, right? Let's have a look. So this is the 1 hour. Now the 1 hour 200 MA is not particularly strong. It's not particularly strong. You see, it's not being particularly respected by the price action, but there is an argument that is coming into support for confluence here. So at least you'll have some buyers here at diagonal support, and you'll have some buyers on the 1 day to the 1 hour 200 MA, right? Let's see if we've got the 2 day, excuse me, the 2 hour. Oh my God, sorry, the 2 hour 200 MA. Let's put this together, and let's just figure out what the play is. Switch this to the 2 hour. You know, and multi-time frame analysis doesn't have to be crazy, right? You can just add some additional moving averages. Okay, so we've now got the 200 acting as better support locally, right? So we have a couple of moving averages. So that is building up like 3 potential elements of confluence at this level, right? So there you go. That's adding to the narrative that this is the area to come in on if you're desperate to get it on the ZEC. But desperation really shouldn't be having any play here. So let's look at the RSI. Let's look at the stock. I'm not going to look at the traditional RSI because I know that's going to be cooking. So you could say to yourself this: I'm aware that this is a high risk entry at around 253, right? But it arguably is manageable because you're coming in again at support instead of in the middle. And you could say to yourself, right, if I have oversold conditions on the stock on maybe the 4 hour, maybe the 2 hour, just get some, and I've got the 200 MA on the 1 hour, the 200 MA on the 2 hour, then that gives, and maybe a bit of divergence, then you can come in. But you need to really ask yourself, what do I need to see to have probabilities in my favor, given that the trend might be weakening? Other than that, this is the area to come in on at around 186, right? Which would be my recommendation, given this has been a huge run up and a huge run. Look at this retrace. So just look at this retrace following the run up, right? At 34%, right? And a 34% retrace from here. You know, it kind of takes us to here, right? So, you know, there'll be things you can trade now, and this might not be it, but there's a couple of options for you. I hope that answered your question. And then, of course, Bitcoin. Let's jump onto Bitcoin. Anything else people want me to have a look at before I do the round of the setups? Bitcoin. Right. So Bitcoin is a difficult picture at the moment. Now, and you might be thinking, well, why are you looking at Bitcoin dominance when you want to talk about Bitcoin? Well, Bitcoin dominance is reflective of market sentiment. You're very welcome, Boring Channel. Hang around. Great to have you here. So when Bitcoin dominance is going up, people are typically fearful. It's Bitcoin season, right? Everyone's focused on Bitcoin, or rather Bitcoin isn't giving you enough signals for altcoins to have any love, right? That's the deal, right? So a lot of altcoins are just like this at the moment, just static, not really doing anything. Now we've had total 3 ES breakout, which is one signal, and we're having a bit of a green candle at the moment for Bitcoin dominance, which is good. But ideally, we need to see this breakdown. Now, if Bitcoin can hold 110K, as we were talking about, you'll start to see the narrative flip. And if Bitcoin can break out of this diagonal trend line, then the narrative will flip. And then you'll have Bitcoin dominance, which again, I've lost. Start the timer. Let's see if I can find it again. Whereas if Bitcoin dominance then breaks, that will be reflective of the fact that Bitcoin has given us the signals we need, and then people start entering their positions, which will make Bitcoin dominance coming down. If Bitcoin dominance maintains this green line of support, it is a warning sign that the market sentiment is still not as it needs to be to enter some of these trades, which is why I was talking about hype at the start. Whereas that it's in a great place to buy, it's fulfilled our planning criteria, but when it's come to the entrance, it's a little bit suspect because of the market weather. So LTC, Link, and AVAX here. I'll have a look at that. Okay. AVAX, Link, and Litecoin. Serious crypto grandpa Litecoin. So that's the idea with Bitcoin. So Bitcoin dominance can really give you the signal that you're after. And we get a breakdown from here. It shows that everything's recovered. But let's have a look at what Bitcoin's at the moment is doing. It looks like it's struggling with 110K still, which makes sense because we want a bit of a retrace from here. But let's just check where are you again? Yeah, so candle body closes are where it's at. Bitcoin is a volatile asset, right? So we just need to see what this candle does. If you can get a candle body close on this hourly chart in 20 minutes, which will maybe still probably won't be on this stream still then, but in 20 minutes, then maybe the bulls will start to try and come in at this area. But let's have a look at if there's any order blocks, giving us a bit of an insight. I imagine, yeah. See, we haven't seen what we need yet. And it is a bit of an ask for bulls to hold 110K, but this is what we need to see. Next up would be the 1 day 200 MA again. So look, I've already said this several times. You know, people have asked me what's the best area to come in on 110K, right? But 110K we keep losing as well. So you know, coming at the 1 day 200 MA is fine, but the whole narrative is a bit messed up right now, because if we go back to this long term. If we go back to this chart here, we have this channel which we're fighting to get back in on, and we'll only really get back in it if we break this diagonal trend line. So there's a bearish scenario here with the 1 week fast coming in to focus, meaning this area around 110K to 100K to 103K is looking a bit more tasty for buyers, right? And if buyers think this is a better area to come in on, why will they come in here? It's a very precarious position, right? So the reality is that we may not see 110K bounce today, and maybe we need to see a flip side, a bounce of 110K on the flip side, which would be essentially something like that. And that's what we need to see. So you could say to yourself, okay, 110K is a great place to buy. If we get a breakout of this diagonal resistance on the 12-hour, there's your play, right? You've had a bullish signal, other buyers will see it, they'll come in, and that's the play, as I'm not sure Bitcoin's going to be able to hold this 110K level. And again, because look, this is a better place to come in on, right? But the problem is, as we've discussed, that we are in a war at the moment between the bears and the bulls. They're fighting for the narrative, stuck between this very narrow trading range of about 110, 112, and 107, 108. And we need a move in either direction before any of these levels are going to hold. Otherwise, it's just going to be this right now as the bulls are fighting it out, right? Imagine like a tug of war, and essentially the people in the tug of war are constantly doing this all the time, right? And this is the bulls and the bears fighting it out. And it's only until we move past this range will we have a definitive direction when we can start taking entrances. So we can say, yeah, 110K makes sense. Let's go. But the narrative is that we need to see that battle won first before 110K comes into focus, right? Because right now we're struggling, right? And it's just a bit of a mess. Look at this, all this whipsaw action. It's really crazy. So we've got this pattern you can trade off. So you could just sit back and wait for a breakout of that. Or I think the best play is just to wait for this diagonal line to break, and then you can start talking about key levels to come in. Probably not the answer you wanted to hear, but nonetheless, that's what I got. AVAX. Have I got I haven't got an AVAX chart. Let's just see if let's do a quick one. Let's just load it up. No, let's see if I've got an AVAX chart. I feel like I've got one. Open layout, AVAX. Right. Okay, yeah, we've got a bit of a chart. Let's just see what's going on with AVAX. Big picture, daily AVAX, retesting support, lots of sellers overhead. Market crash took us down to 8.52. Looking a bit weak at the moment on the daily. So let's have a look. Let's zoom in, do a quick analysis for you all. Again, if you see James around, try and encourage him to pop in. I'm sure you'll all be very happy to see him. Right, so there's a descending triangle pattern on AVAX. This is a 4-hour chart. This is the floor where the crash happened, which you have to appreciate makes this level like gravity, like a magnet of sorts. Weakening price action, sellers stacking up overhead, descending triangle pattern with probabilities in the favor of a break to the downside. Not really thinking that there's a good play for AVAX right now. Okay, now you could say, okay, this is horizontal support, or let's make sure we class it as an area, right? Like that. Let's just switch this on. So it extends. So you could say that, right? And let's just see, but there's no, there is obviously a few people coming in with an order block here, but we've got a channel which we know that we've got a pattern which we know the probabilities of. We know that, you know, this level is going to be a magnet because that's where the bounce stops. So really, no play here with AVAX until we have a bullish signal from Bitcoin. So I'm going to say no play, just no play. Now, obviously, if we get a breakdown from here, you can come in for a support zone buy. As you can see historically, this is March, this is April, this is June. We've had nice bouncing action off there. It's historical resistance. So it's a good level. Yeah, so it's a good level, but that's the first place to look to come in on. So you'd be waiting for a pattern breakdown and look to come in as support. That would be the idea. But regardless of what Bitcoin does, even if Bitcoin goes up from here and we get a breakout, it's just not a good narrative. It's not a good narrative for AVAX right now. It's just there's more probable setups. It's a bit of a mess, and unfortunately, this is what the crash does. So might be a better short play, to be honest. But I'm not promoting that either until Bitcoin gives us again a bearish signal. So yeah, AVAX not looking great. I think there's better setups. Let's have a look at Link. Chainlink. I don't have a chart for that, so let's load that up. Create a new chart. Chainlink. Chainlink. God, time flies when you're doing charting on a live stream. Link. Where are we? Okay, there we go. Coinbase. Let's go with Coinbase. Okay, I'm seeing a symmetrical triangle. Just big picture. Let's just have a look at the big picture first, people. Do you ever use? Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do use VWAP. Yeah, not very often, but I'll roll out. Look, the way I look at these indicators and everything is, it's like a plumber, right? You bring out the tool you need, right, when you need it, and not until, right? And you might not do a job which needs the VWAP. So you know, there's many other volume indicators as well which I use, which are not exactly the same. So yeah, I do. Really straightforward tool to use for sure. I know I ask about this can we talk about ADA? Yeah, no, I've been monitoring your trade, Lola. I've been monitoring your trade, so I do have a chart ready for that. So I'll put ADA on the list, but let's have a quick look at Link. Great to have everyone here, by the way. Great comments. MD, thanks for leading the pack with this one. Right, so what was I saying? I can't remember what I was saying. Right, yeah, zooming. So I think there's a triangle here, but let's just zoom out to the daily. Always important principle, just to check where our big lines are in the sand. There we go. Okay, that's the trading range. Trading range here, trading range here. There we go. Okay, so we don't care about up here right now. Okay, so it looks like we are in a symmetrical triangle, struggling to hold support, right, in the middle of two ranges, right, which is extremely unhelpful. It's very, very symbolic of the 50-50 play which is going on at the moment with the market. We're just waiting for that battle between buyers and sellers. Hence why the latest Bitcoin update video had that red-green sort of theme, 50-50 theme. Yeah, so really straightforward play. I'm not saying short anything. I don't think anyone should be shorting anything just yet, but this is arguably a bear pennant, okay? But it's a symmetrical triangle, so you can So if you're only going to be longing, it's a really straightforward play, because the great thing about, look at this triangle, it's beautifully aligned with this support area. Okay, let's just see how good a support area this is. It's a little bit ambiguous. There's a bit of a range here. So like 17.3, 17.6 is all part of the same bounce. So that's not particularly helpful, but you can see, yeah, it's pretty much there. So I always, when there's a bit of ambiguity, I always like to just put a trading range, a little range on there like that. But because we're not going in any direction right now, let's make it gray just to be clear. So we need a direction from Bitcoin and the rest of the market. We've already established what we need to be looking for from that. Some of the signals are stacking up. We've had total 3 ES breakout today. Bitcoin has managed to get above 110K, but it's looking like it's struggling to hold it. So we need to see this all. We need to see some more signals. But presuming we do get the signals from Bitcoin and it does manage to recover, then Link will do this. Okay, this is the 4-hour chart. And then that is a nice entrance. Really straightforward. You've got lovely confluence with this horizontal support range, which is currently sort of resistance, and you've got a bullish signal on the breakout of the symmetrical triangle, which is going to, give the middle finger to the bears, and because they're expecting this to break lower because it's a bear pendant, technically speaking, and that's your entrance, right? Look for a little bit of confluence. I mean, and again, you hear me say this all the time, but here's the criteria, right? If you want to at least have a breakout above that previous swing high, because then you get a trend change confirmation as well, right? And then if you get a break above that swing high, it's even more bullish, right? And that can allow you to inform your position. So you can say to yourself, okay, I'm going to get a breakout, it's past that level, I'm going to come in with 20% of my intended position for this trade, right? Whatever, just as an example, right? But you could then say, oh, but actually, because it broke out and broke both of these swing highs, that's a stronger signal. I'm going to come with 40% of my position, right? That's how it should work, right? To get those signals stacked up. But yeah, so there's a play with Link, for sure. There's definitely a play, but it's a waiting game, wait for bullish confirmation, and some nice potential areas to put your stop loss as well. So there you go, nice little setup, and take profit. I won't be asking for too much, really. Look at that, that's beautiful. Right, and that's lovely. Just under that swing low, just under the pattern, exact risk reward ratio of 3, take profits there. That's what we want to see, everything lining up, right? Something manageable. And then obviously do some more analysis, put some moving average on, but that's Link. Litecoin, running through it really quickly. Really good session. Thanks for the great questions. Love the way Paul explains. That's very generous. Thank you. Yeah, that's nice, Ryan. Right, so running through these, Litecoin. Let's have a look at Litecoin. I remember when I first started on a Prime, it was very limited to what they offered, and I pushed them to expand their crypto offerings to some of the USD pairs that Binance offered. But when I first started on a Prime, it was just Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin and Ethereum, something like that, like the classic crypto OGs. And it was very weird because I hadn't traded Litecoin for a long time. James, which time frame is best? Is James here? Because I'm sure it'd be great if he was. Right, LTC spot. Okay, Litecoin. Oh, what? Yeah, okay. So that is firstly telling me that that's a bit of a warning sign. Okay, already it's such a bad reaction to the crash, which is kind of understandable because I mean, Litecoin really hasn't been in focus, hasn't been cool for a while. Not a reason not to trade it, but just put some levels on, see where we're at. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so do I need anything else? Do I want anything else? Okay, so this is the daily chart. Simple process, zoom in again to the 4-hour. Okay, so what's happening? Weak, tepid price action. Just not helpful, right? And this is essentially Bitcoin battling out with the bulls, right? No one knows what to do, right? So it's a trading range. So not looking great. I would stay away from this. I would stay away from this for a while. We need more price structure because right now, again, this is downside is looking on the cards for Litecoin. And even if, the only way this is going to repair itself is if Bitcoin starts with some really bullish moves. Like it gives a signal, and it makes it very clear that no more downside is ahead. And that may be coming, right, in a few days' time or in a couple of weeks. But ultimately, Litecoin looking very weak. I would stay away from that. If you are looking to trade it, identify the range, as always, right? Identify the range which we're trading in, which looks like it's this one, right? And then just make sure that if there's any ambiguity, there's a lot of ambiguity. It's like not even a clear definable range, right? So again, I'm going to say just call it. Just there's no point forcing this. Don't stay away from this. I mean, you could say, well, maybe there's an ascending triangle, but I'm not seeing the probabilities in our favor. I mean, there's something, okay, there's a bullish narrative, but you're running straight into resistance here as well. So the triangle's not even lined up helpfully, right? So you really want the triangle up here. You want the top of the triangle up here, like this, right? That would be better. That would be something I could get on board with, because then you've got nice confluence with the breakout of this horizontal resistance. But ultimately coming in here, oh, we've got a breakout, or we're running straight into sellers, right? So yeah, sorry, Litecoin, not that great, unfortunately. Any more? So let me, I'm just going to play the promo just while I have a drink of my cold coffee, because I brought a clip. And if James isn't going to pop in, let's make sure we got a bit of James as well in this session.
Hi there, I'm James. I'm the founder of ArcisFX. I'd like to personally invite you to join our 24/7 trading group. This is built for traders who want an edge. Inside, you'll get access to live calls on Forex, commodities, crypto, energies, and metals, along with exclusive daily analysis designed to unlock your trading potential. And this in both traditional and now in digital markets. I'm talking Bitcoin, crypto, altcoins, and tethered currencies. You'll gain early access to insider news, real-time updates, real-time support, and premium educational content. If you want to sharpen your skills and boost your success rate, then join me and Paul in this community. This is a fast-growing community of traders who are now writing their own success stories. So don't wait. Join up now. Your edge starts right here.
Thank you, James. Great job on that. So yeah, look, I haven't posted any altcoin positions in group this week until the altcoin picks video, because I don't want people to think that it's like the starting gun for good probabilities to trade altcoins is here yet. But there are some really good setups, which if you check out altcoin picks, there's a lot of potential options. Hype is giving us some options, right? This is great. So we just need to manage the risk, and we just need to realize that, okay, we've got what signals do I need to see, right? And we haven't quite got the signals we need, but they're starting to stack up a little bit, right? Because look, just big picture, I mean, look, we are breaking this down. We are trying to break this downtrend, right? But we're definitely not out of the woods yet. But because we have a reversal pattern of sorts, there's something you can trade, but we're needing these very high probability setups with lots of bullish signals stacking up, and then assessing the market and then determining where we enter based on the winds and the weather at the moment. As long as you're doing that, you're going to be okay. And because if you do that and the weather's terrible, you'll never find a setup to trade. But hype potentially has some options here. FET was another one. Yeah, I mean, I am going to look to enter hype, right? And I think, it's one of these things, I may want to have 4 bullish signals following this crash from Bitcoin and the rest of the market to stack up before I enter a trade, right? But trade setups themselves can offset that, right, to a degree as well. So if you have a really good setup with the probability of the setup, they can compensate if they're showing resilience in the face of the market, as long as Bitcoin doesn't do anything crazy. But we're not there yet. And likewise with FET. Strong breakout, right? FET has really suffered, right? FET has been in the toilet for a long time, right? So there's just caution there. But if you do go to we're very oversold on the daily, right? And when you find an asset or an altcoin which is super oversold like this on multiple time frames, you have to pay attention. You do have to pay attention. But this was the crash, right? So it's a difficult setup to trade, but especially because this moving average is in the right place. But what is interesting about FET is these oversold conditions, right? The unseen on the chart necessarily with his multi-time frame analysis, which is suggesting, okay, right, so this is the narrative, super extremely oversold on the daily chart, just the daily, right? And that's pretty significant. This is just the 1 hour 200 MA. It's a little bit closer to shaving cream than brick wall, unlike the daily 200 MA. So we just need to find a narrative. Now there is a trend line here, but it looks like we're losing it. So, a breakout entry coming back down to 2.5 or whatever for FET this essentially trying to flip this resistance to support, right? It's an interesting play there, and you've got a range play. Something like this is what we're looking for essentially. But I wouldn't be entering this if it wasn't for the broader narrative of the oversold conditions, right? So that's the argument. It's a different set of signals, a different set of ideas, and obviously, if you're looking at trading this, you're going to do your own work. You're going to do your work, and you're going to see if you can find additional confidence. So you're not just going to enter at 252 just as it is, not with this moving average overhead. You're going to look like we did earlier at other moving averages. You're going to look at see if there's any other inflection points, if there's any divergence showing up to give you confidence to come in here. Say, for example, you have oversold conditions on the 2 hour, the 4 hour, and the stock RSI coincides with that. And then there you go. You've got some confluence. You pair that with your oversold conditions on the daily, which you've identified, and there is an idea for probabilities in your favor here. But it's still quite high risk, and you need to manage it. So you might choose hype over FET. What's the comment about hype? Got liquidated on my hype long during the flush 2 weeks ago, hoping to make a recovery with this trade. Sorry to hear that. A lot of people did. I had a losing trade on that day as well. But yeah, so it just hype. The thing is with hype right now. The thing is with the hype chart right now is great place to enter. The market isn't where it needs to be. Therefore, this is a better entrance, but it's not as good an entrance because we lose some of the bullish narrative. So it has to be a balance. And I think we've still got to play here, right? But you have to understand what we're dealing with. But we have support here, we have support here, we have support here, and we have support here. And that's what we need. There's the safety net. So at least you have probabilities in your favor, as opposed to just randomly trading something. And if we just quickly have a look at one more setup, I would be remiss if we didn't look at Uranus today. One of my favorite planets. So this is exactly the sort of scenario, if you can get past the name. And I'm not sure this helped or hindered this key term in the altcoin picks video yesterday. So we've had a breakout of a key range, which is great, super duper, right? Well done, Uranus. Good job. And you can see this is a bounce point potentially, but the reality is this is the move. What is a 40-50% retrace, which is pretty standard? It's back down to this area, and therefore, if we had all the signals stacking up, and Bitcoin had made a higher move up, and it's now confirmed that it's won the battle, and it's just been retesting, then Uranus right here is a good play at around 0.33. But that hasn't happened. Bitcoin is still in trouble. Bitcoin is still fighting for key levels. Therefore, that uncertainty or that potential for more downside makes this area more probable, which is why we have two potential entrances. And you'll see here we've got the 4 hour and the 1 hour 200 MA coming in to act as nice support for this little entry zone. And so my recommendation for Uranus is to come in at 0.22, right, or to look for an entrance there, because essentially you've got the back of the double bottom, you've had the higher high, you're coming in for the higher low at a reasonable area. Now, obviously, if Bitcoin ascends from here and it pushes the market up, then you've still got this entrance level, right? But this is kind of, if you look at here, putting its head above the parapet, it's just not quite enough to allow bulls to come up here, not in the current market conditions, which is why we have multiple plays for these setups. And some people will say, Paul, just tell me where to enter, right? But if I tell you to enter here, the market conditions are not right. But if they change, it will be a good narrative. I can tell you to enter here, but then the market might get away from you, and then this becomes into play again. So we provide the analysis, we provide these options and the rationale behind it, but you've got to be able to assess the market conditions and line them up with the best possible entrance, as we discussed about. And you mustn't get attached to these things. But let me have a quick look at ADA before we go for Lola, because I've really been talking for too long. And it's a Friday now, I'm sure everybody is keen. Right, Lola, I have your entry position on this chart. Right, this is it. That's your entry position, right? So I've got it. I've been monitoring it for you. So the idea was that you entered here, and the price action continued downwards. Okay, I'm really sorry to hear that. And we now just need it to come back up to give us that bearish retest, so you can get out. Right? I think that's most likely going to happen. Right? You can see that we've had a breakout on the RSI on the daily chart. We're still very low down, so there's a lot of headroom ahead. And if Bitcoin can make some moves, or rather it stays in a good position, then we can potentially get that. But it's not 100% great. You can see we're in the middle of a big red order block, and so let's just look to see So this is what I could suggest, right? And this is the way I would play it. It's an unfortunate situation to be in, right? We have this little pennant, okay, and it needs to break out to the upside in order to get your no loss exit, right? Now, I feel like that's going to happen, right? I think that's probably going to happen, but looking on what the RSI is doing. But the reality is that, let's just go down to about 6 to 6 hour charts, right? The reality is there's sellers still coming in, trying to suppress the price action. And if you could say to yourself, if you get a break to the downside from here, you might want to take the loss, right? And a little bit more than a standard sort of stop loss, but maybe take the hit, right? So you could say to yourself, this is your choice, but you could say, okay, I'm trying for a no loss exit. It's still in play, that no loss exit, following going the other way. This is what I want to see. Great, I'm out, live to fight another day, right? But you have to at some point draw another line in the sand and say, okay, if it goes the other way and it does this, that's where I exit, and I'll exit at a 10, 12, 15% loss, whatever it is. And again, live to fight another day with that remaining 85% of your position. Because if we get back down here, well, that's too much to absorb. Okay, so that would be what I would suggest for you. And this is the way I trade, right? Try and get out on no loss, try and avoid a stop loss being hit, but realize that you have to draw a line in the sand for the very worst potential scenario, and you can't be holding it coming down here. So I hope that that helps. But don't worry, I still think you've got an opportunity to get out at no loss based on this current TA. But just be very mindful that if we do get a break to the downside, you got to maybe consider taking the loss. Okay, but look, thanks for everybody for being here today. We're working really hard behind the scenes here at ArcisFX to get everything sorted for you. Again, if you want to do me a favor, like, comment, share the altcoin picks video for us as we're trying to wrestle with thumbnails, wrestling with the algorithm, trying to get everything working in order, because we want to have, of course, the algorithm to see us for what we are now, which is a great channel with James for commodities and all of that stuff, but whilst branching out into crypto. So as a community, give us a hand with those, and very open to feedback on the videos as well, and thumbnails, etc. As an example, we are probably going to move altcoin picks tomorrow, not tomorrow, but next week. A top 5 setup every week. There's 5 setups, and not 6 or 7. 5 setups. We're going to keep on each video just to try and get a little bit of an edge with those videos, because the setups are great, but I think we've got to pierce through the algorithm to get crypto these videos working. Where is Bitcoin at the moment? Hi, Emil, great to see you. Happy to just have a quick look before we finish. Bitcoin at the moment is too many charts. I've lost Bitcoin. Oh no, we've lost Bitcoin. That's not good. Bitcoin currently is around 110, 111. Okay, and just to sum up, we need to break this diagonal trend line. We need to do more bullish signals to stack up. So ideally, we want to be saying that Bitcoin is 110, 111K on the other side of this, and that would be potentially an area. But that's it for now. I'm Paul with ArcisFX. James has got his live stream on Sunday, so make sure you're waiting for that. Let me just take that off. Sunday, James has got his live stream on Sunday. I'll be back on, so make sure you tune in for that. It's going to be a great session. If I'm doing gardening, I'll pop in. If not, I won't. And then I'll be back on Tuesday for a Bitcoin update, and hopefully we can have some more of those bullish signals. But that's it. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Look forward to seeing you next week. Appreciate the support. Take care for now.